25-year-old Vasily Ivanchuk from the Ukraine is the master of calculation, as he proved in his match with Korchnoi. In the first game, playing white, he won a pawn in the opening, but typically did not relax for one moment, striving to make the best move in every position. Here, he's pawn up, and Korchnoi has just moved his rook to the c-file. Now, it's possible for white just to exchange here, but then I suppose Ivanchuk was worried that the rook might come down to c2 with some nasty counterplay on the 7th rank. Instead, he thought for some moments before playing his rook to c1. Now, this is a very risky move, but Ivanchuk had calculated absolutely everything out. Korchnoi played pawn to e2 check. Now, this is the reason why Ivanchuk had to go into great detail, great depth, before playing this rook to c1. If the pawn is taken, then f3 check. And now if king takes pawn, for instance, then the bishop takes the rook. Black's a rook up. So Ivanchuk moved his king to e1. Now, if Korchnoi relaxes, for instance, if he just captures the rook, rook takes, then black has no counterplay whatsoever. Those two pawns, d5 and e6, are just going to roll home. So he marched on with his pawn, played his pawn to f3. Now again, if that pawn is taken, then the bishop on g5 captures the rook on c1. But Ivanchuk had it all worked out. He played rook takes c8, and now we have an amazing sequence of moves. Korchnoi captured the pawn on g2, threatening to move the pawn down to make a queen. Ivanchuk captured on e2. So white is a whole rook up here, but it's not quite so simple. Korchnoi took on c8, Ivanchuk recaptured, and the king moved up to h7 out of check. And now here, Ivanchuk can't stop the pawn on g2 coming down to make a queen, because if the rook comes back, c1, then it just gets captured by the bishop. But he'd seen it all coming, and he played his pawn to e7 instantly. Now, if bishop takes pawn, then the rook can come back to stop the pawn, and then after bishop takes bishop, rook g1 and rook takes pawn on g2. White is the exchange up and has a clearly winning ending. So Korchnoi made a queen, and Ivanchuk did the same. And it's this position that Ivanchuk would have had to have calculated way back when he played 29 rook dc1. Before he ever moved that rook to the c-file, he'd have had to have seen this position and work out that black did not have enough checks with his queen. Korchnoi played queen g4 check. The king dropped back to f1. Korchnoi checked again, and the queen came back to the defense. Queen e1. And now, if queen d3 check, then the king simply slips to g1 and there are no more checks. Instead, Korchnoi captured on d5, but now that gives Ivanchuk just a little breathing space, enabling him to set up a devastating counterattack. Remember, Ivanchuk's a whole rook up here, and he used it. Played queen b1 check. Lovely move. So now if king to h6, then the rook comes across, bang, rook h8, checkmate. Korchnoi blocked the check with g6, but rook c7 check was just as devastating. King went back to h8, and now the queen crashed in. Queen takes g6. And at this point, Korchnoi resigned the game. It's absolutely hopeless. He still has one possible check on h1, After king e2 there are no more checks, because if queen e4 check, then queen takes queen. So in that hopeless position after queen takes g6, Korchnoi resigned. An amazing piece of calculation from Ivanchuk. In the second game, Korchnoi tried hard to win, but Ivanchuk only needed a draw, which he secured without too much difficulty.